Alright, it is 9:27 a.m. and October the 6th. It is, Wednesday, and the watch list has changed a little bit because I can trade now on E-Trade. I have the order entry box. I have 2 day trades available. And so look, we have FERN. Ideally, it can make like a first green day. Maybe it will start to turn around and make something nice like TGGI was the other day. And maybe it can do some kind of a continuation. In theory, I could be still long a position with TGGI, and I could, be hoping that it's going to continue, maybe do a gap up or just open nicely and continue an uptrending motion so I can sell into a better price. It had one yesterday. I wasn't really in it for that long, but I think yesterday was a good example of just trying to push myself to trade first green day setup, something I don't have that much experience with, but yesterday totally helped. SPQS could be a morning panic bounce play. This is one I'd have to trade on E-Trade, and it is a little sketchy because of the way it trades in terms of volume. CYBL could be a first green day. It could also continue to be a morning panic bounce play. Now it's at 37 cents. It did get as high as 66, so it could try to do something like that. None of these have to. PUGE, this one's interesting, and I can trade this one on Schwab, which is nice. It can try a continuation. It can do a morning panic bounce play. It did try, in theory, breaking out of this level, maybe a hold, and continue an uptrend. ISWH also had like a first green day, and this one happened later in the day. That one was interesting to watch. TONR, this one might be something I won't trade because it's kind of sketchy, but it might be the kind of stock I can do morning panic bounce plays. I just don't like the way it trades so much. That's what I have for this pre-market. Alright, it is 9:49 a.m. and I had one trade attempt, but that was it. I knew to be very cautious with this stock because it likes to be very, manipulative. It just doesn't, when it looks like it might try to turn around, I just think, knowing that, hey, this thing could actually fail because it trades like trash. And I did try once at 9:34 right here, and my entry in theory was 29.11, which would have been a killer entry. My order sat there for a good, 4 to 5 seconds. I didn't get executed, which is fine. And then we had like the big yuppie push towards VWAP, just everyone chasing with market orders for the morning panic bounce play, but little do they know this thing trades like trash. So I kept that with a grain of salt. I really like how it just broke the level with such low volume. That shows how manipulative this stock is. And I didn't even have it on my main watch list because I knew it trades like trash, but it did show up in the other one. I did try once, and even that attempt was, in theory, a $290 position because I'm not trying to give this one any money because of how it trades. I don't really like it. So it did downtrend. It did turn around ultimately at this 27 level, now 28, but the way it does it is very you just have to think backwards. Like, if there's a lot of people on the ask, that means it might actually continue the uptrend. If there's a lot of people at the bid, they're probably going to go and hit and take out that bid. It's just, it's reverse psychology, and I'd rather just not mess with it, but it's interesting to just look at it. If anything, it's like a piece of art, but I'm not going to necessarily trade it, except for that one attempt where it could have turned around in theory there. And had I have considered that and I would have been executed at 29.11, that would have been a good entry, and I probably would have tried selling it because of how weird it trades and sketchy it trades. If not, I would have immediately have tried selling at this 30 level when it touches VWAP. So yeah, this is it. It's just a weird looking guy, very ugly, but it can do whatever it wants. I'm just probably not going to trade it. It can, if it might try to, it can try to put up a tiny higher low, but it might also just hit VWAP, and I don't care if the thing goes to 38. If it's that ugly, I don't know who trades it. Definitely not people with serious money, because this thing is not worth putting money into. in terms of trading these morning panic bounce plays, but it's actually nice to look at just to learn from it. SPQS just broke that level, kind of like the new trend. I think TGGI did it too. Yep. I missed this one. I think I was trying to get in TGGI, but it turned around when I clicked off of the chart. So that was fine, though it didn't really do that well. TONR is downtrending with low volume, so it's nothing ideal. PUGE, nothing either. And yeah, unfortunately, this one did have a morning panic. That seems to be the case with a lot of these that have a first green day, which is too bad, but you know, I can learn from that. I don't know when the heck is my short selling account going to wake up and be usable, so I might make a new account with Schwab and just close the old one. And I'll be interested in shorting stocks like ILUS. Maybe this one's a bit too late, but especially one that is all ugly like this. These are really nice shorts in theory. Not the best, of course, but you just bet on the opposite from what you would consider on a normal stock. This one is just so backwards. It could actually be a nice short. ISWH, it is trying the second day. This one's nice. At least one of them is trying. It has this panic. It makes this uptrend. If it hits back towards maybe the red or green mark, or maybe even breaks under it but makes a higher low, despite the volume, this thing doesn't really, you know, trade with good volume. It could be a good setup. That's all I have for right now. Very interesting to watch with ILUS, but I'm not going to trade it anymore. It can make an inverse head and shoulders. It can do whatever it wants. You know, somebody's going to trade it, but it's not going to be me. Alright, it is 10:39, and dude, this thing, wow. This was a very interesting stock. I'll just leave it at that. No, I won't leave it at that. I did try one trade, and this is my first E-Trade trade that didn't work, and I had to pay dearly for it because commissions are a thing with E-Trade, and I think maybe half of what I lost, I think I can't really show it like I can on Schwab, but I lost $25.85, and that was a quick in and out with attempted morning panic bounce play. Now this thing wasn't really perfect. I didn't like how VWAP or VWAP, whatever you want to call it, was downtrending. And I went in at 10:08, which was right here, this little candle. And the main thing that got me into this trade, thinking that maybe it could try to turn around here, I did trade like a $1,600 position, was the idea that the volume was fading. We did have a few big volume moves right here. It did have these little wicks where it got sold into, but in theory, it could be a possibility that it could try to turn around. And to me, the risk level was 332. If 332 was getting, in theory, just hanging out on the bid, and we have red print, not good price action, with the ask, just a large ask, the risk level getting smaller, red print, all of that stuff, I'll cut it then and there, and I won't risk myself cutting losses after that level breaks into some kind of a panic. So I got out 10:09, and that was at the risk level 332. So 10:09 right here, 332. I cut it right then and there. I think the percent loss was like 0.06%, not even 1%. And I guess just to see what dollar size was this. Yeah, that was a $1,600 position, almost $1,700. And yeah, it was a good thing that I cut losses quickly, because if I didn't, I would have lost like $160. That would have really sucked, because it did drop rather quickly at 32, and then it hit a low at 30. So imagine losing 10% by not cutting losses quickly. 334 to freaking, let's say, a sell at 31. I guess it's not 10%, but it's a 6% loss. It's not ideal. So that was a good thing, and that I cut losses quickly. Maybe I shouldn't have traded it because it wasn't really that clean looking, and VWAP was just downtrending. That could have been the thing here, and then Tim got in here, and then he added here, and then he sold like right here or something like that, like right under, right above this little breakdown it just did again over the level. So it could try to turn around now, but you know, it's probably something I shouldn't have looked at in the first place, just because of the fact that VWAP was downtrending. I'm really good at the really quick ones, and this one wasn't a quick one at all. And yeah, I probably shouldn't have traded it, but I think I learned a great lesson. Even though I took a L with this trade here, it could have been much worse if I didn't cut losses quickly, so I can be happy with that. And I have a bunch of, I'm gonna guess this thing could be an inverse head and shoulders now. Shoulder, head, you know, it can try getting the 31 from this 29 level. It can, you know, I'd be surprised if this thing drops another 10%, but it can do it. You know, you just play off of a risk level or accordingly to your plan, and just take a shot at it. I don't like taking shots with this one because it is something I have to use with E-Trade. I hate paying commissions, especially in this case when it doesn't work in my favor. What would be just a tiny $12 loss because I traded a $1,600 position is $25, and I know there's not much in the long, you know, in the grand scheme of things, but you know, everybody has emotions, everybody has an ego. So let's see if this thing tries to turn around here. It probably can, but I won't be interested in trading it because I don't want to risk losing my day trade, my last day trade, for something that might not work out. Right after, you know, it has shown to fail here and then fail here, so that's the idea there. Although it's going to have to turn around at some point. It doesn't have to, of course, but most of these do. SPQS, nothing. TUNR, nothing. FERN, it did turn around. It did something like this before. Maybe this is an inverse head and shoulder, shoulder, head, shoulder. TGGI, nothing. PUGE, maybe one as well, although this one isn't really that nice looking, but it is at its high, so that's in its favor. I was looking at ISWH at some point going slightly below, maybe just put up a higher low at some point and do like a rather green move, but this thing just continued the uptrend, so that's fine. I didn't trade it for that reason. And the toxic one, I'm more happy that I had to cut losses quickly on CYBL than trading ILUS and losing, even if it was less, because this one is toxic. It's something to avoid, but it is trying to inverse head and shoulder, shoulder, head, shoulder, and this one looks very clean, but is it going to do it? Maybe. It doesn't have the best range either, but you know, this one could totally do something nice. Why not? You know, it could also, these stocks could just be failing so much and consistently because the overall markets too, you know, like they're not looking that nice. So it could also be why these morning panic bounce waves aren't working so nicely. Maybe it isn't just a bunch of promoters just, you know, being crazy or whatever. It could also just be that the overall markets are dropping, so that's why some of these things are not looking that nice and they're failing consistently. I'll make an update after the market's closed. I'm going to go ahead and start working on a bunch of stuff, and I need to catch up with a lot of work actually, so that's all I have for right now. I'll make an update to see what some of these do. This could clearly turn around. It's already doing it, but it could also just randomly fail, but I'm gonna guess it can do something here. Why not? Alright, it is 2:30 and I want to make an update. I did a really speculative trade. I only lost $2.30 because I traded such a small $179 position. Nothing I can do with E-Trade profitably. Tiny percent loss, and this is one of these weird type of OTC runners where it could just have this downtrend and then finish up like very nicely on the day with a freaky wick. It's similar to TGGI, although this one isn't as nice as TGGI, and I went long. It had this downtrend here, right, and I wasn't here when this happened, but I was here when it put up a higher low. In theory, I should have probably have tried maybe an entry at 88, which would have been like a higher low from this level right here. It's now breaking it, but it can try to turn around perhaps, but there are just too many people like this who are selling a lot of shares. Maybe they're market makers. I don't know who they are, but there is definitely a lot of selling with a lot of size. Maybe people just taking profits. And my entry was 16 right here, 216, and it wasn't really 90. It was like 895 or whatever, you know, right in the middle at 16. And then it kind of broke this trend line, which wasn't an exact science. I sold at 23, kind of like here at it was at like 895. No, not, yeah, it was like 895. It was a very, no, it was like 885. I bought at like, it's very confusing, 895, and I sold at like 885 or 8, yeah, 885. That's right. So it was just a tiny loss, very speculative. It can try to maybe put a higher low here. So maybe it didn't work here and just work perfectly. Maybe is doing it off of this level, but yeah, that was a very speculative. I don't mind that trade. What I do mind, although this one is a shitty example, because I mean this is just really sad, the price action, but it did do it in theory. I have a new note right here: morning panic or 11 a.m. tsunami panic reversal long. So the idea is that if it's not going to be a normal morning panic bounce play, which it wasn't, you know, my entry and exit was right here, right? Imagine not cutting losses quickly. Even here I wouldn't have been able to sell for a break even. That's why you cut losses quickly. I'm really happy with it, although I didn't probably pick the best setup. I totally forgot about the idea. If a stock just does a really horrible job, they can do a morning panic bounce play horribly, sure. But if it keeps doing something like this where it keeps making lower lows, I need to try to go for that 11:30 a.m. reversal. And that's clearly what happened here. This was the ultimate low. No way would I have just randomly taken it, but when you look at the timing, it's just a higher chance that it can. And I probably could have considered the inverse head and shoulders, shoulder right here at 276, and it would have taken forever. It would have taken ages, right? And it wasn't really consistent either, but it did put up higher lows. In theory, this was kind of like a triple bottom, and it did get the 30. So from an entry at 275 to 30, that's not even 10%, but it's just under it. And if you count the very tippy top 318 when it breaks this VWAP level, right, maybe at that point it could be, you know, for sure over 10%. And a nicer example was ILUS right here, 11:30 a.m. reversal. Now it didn't really give much of an entry like CYBL, because there isn't like an inverse head and shoulders here, unless you want to count this, which to me is more like a cup and handle. Here's a cup and the handle. I've seen that work, but I wasn't really thinking about that. I was thinking more about this price action, and I wasn't there anymore. You know, maybe once it got to like right here and it failed to downtrend, right, and it breaks above the level at 27.05, and then you hold for this higher low, I mean, that could be something to consider. So I have a new note here. I should have probably have been more focused in terms of that. That if the morning panic bounce plays are just failing, consider the 11:30 a.m. reversal, especially if it does like an inverse head and shoulders like it was here. And this one wasn't, again, the best example. ILUS is better. That's something I can totally do. CEI was putting up higher lows, but I wasn't really that dedicated into trading it. It's trying to hold this level at 86, but I probably won't trade it anymore. SPQS, the Sahara Desert, TONR, nothing. This one's trying to break this level right here. They can try to do more stuff, but I probably won't be interested in it. ISWH is nothing. Maybe a head and shoulders, but probably not with this price action. That's all I got. Just one speculative trade there. I don't mind it at all. I do feel salty though, and it's totally my fault. It's not anyone else's fault. No conspiracies. It's totally my fault that I didn't remember that 11:30 a.m. reversal. So I have that note here, and I look forward to that. Still, I didn't do anything stupid like not cutting losses quickly and lose $160 or something crazy like that, but I need to definitely be more focused around that time. And even if it doesn't work for like the next 8 weeks or something, I can at least be ready when it is ready again, because those can make some really nice moves, and I could try these with some decent size too. Alright, it is 5:23 p.m. and I am here to call it off. I think if I learned anything from this, I need to really remember if I'm just going for a regular morning panic bounce play, or if it's going to be one of those I keep failing, I'm going to have to look for maybe inverse head and shoulders, if it's like a tsunami type panic, which is what I like to call them. I shouldn't have traded CYBL because it was a late, if it was going to be one, and they're not really that ideal. Morning panic bounce play. If anything, I should have probably have traded that on Schwab if that was an option, and because it wasn't, I should have probably have just stayed away from it. That would have helped. I looked back, I only lost $10 on the trade, but with commissions it brings it to that 25 number, which is unfortunate. But if I'm gonna have to trade a larger size to make up for the commissions, it has to be on a good setup, and this wasn't really that. I was just probably too ready to get in the trade, and I should probably just let it play out, even if it means I miss out, than to try to put myself in something that's not going to be good. It did fail this inverse head and shoulders in theory here, shoulder head shoulder, but at that point I should have realized that this is like a tsunami type panic stock, so I should have I should not even have looked at it. And then maybe in theory here 11:30 shoulder head shoulder, it's just higher odds. Like, it didn't work here. It could have, but when it's around 11, it seems to really be a higher chance that it can try to turn around. I was even looking at CEI for like some kind of a bounce setup. It didn't move very much. There was a big wall. It's probably for the better that I didn't trade it. It just didn't feel like an ideal setup. TONR, nothing. TGGI, nothing, although it did do like that morning panic bounce play, I guess, that I've been talking about, where it kind of has a support level and they break it and then it turns around, right? PUGE was that other trade, and it did not really work out. It was a very speculative trade, but it seems like it did turn around later, but that would have been super damn hard for me to consider it right when it breaks the day low and then it just holds itself. Maybe that could have been the setup right there, but at that point, it's later in the day. Is it going to have much time for it to come back? It still looks very nice. This can be a nice morning panic bounce play at some point, ideally something clean in the morning. And if I see it fail, I'll need to consider the fact that it could be a tsunami type panic, and then I should wait for that ideal time at around 11:30 a.m. SPQS, nothing. ISWH did prove itself to be a second green day. Unlike TGGI, this one failed like it did there previously, but this one's actually trying to do it. This one's nice. FERN, I didn't see this. Maybe I would have considered this, especially when it came back to this level and it held it. That might have been something I could have been interested in. I just never saw this, but this is some cool price action. That's all I have. A bunch of good lessons learned. Yeah, I'm definitely going to try to avoid trading on E-Trade unless it's a really ideal setup, because I have to trade size, and I don't necessarily want to trade a not so good setup with a large size and then have the chance that it's going to be really unprofitable if it's going to charge commission. So that's all I have. A lot of good lessons. I need to take things a lot more I guess hindsight, it's not 2020, but I need to take things more seriously in terms of what time it is in the day. I think that can really help me. And yeah, that's all I got for today.